Welcome to News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery.
We're so glad to have you join us this morning. You met Scott Davis last week, and for the ones who were not in the audience last week, I want us to just get a little bit of background. He is in the oil business here in Midland and became acquainted with a young military officer in 2004, and he was so impressed with his dedication and devotion to duty and country. And as he learned more about his service in Iraq at that time, he thought there has to be some ways that we can help him and be a part of his service to Americans. And so from that grew 5 boxes sent that year to his platoon in Iraq, and it was packed with several things, and they just took it upon themselves, he and some of his friends, to pack it in boxes and pay the cost. And all of a sudden, people began hearing about it, and they said, we want to help next year, we want to help. And so 8 years later, it grew to 2,640 boxes. And then last year they sent 2,600 boxes. So it's just been an amazing story, and I am so happy that Scott Davis is here to tell us a little bit more about it. Scott, thank you very much for coming back again today. And I want us to talk about, we talked a little bit about a lot of things last week, but we didn't talk about the dogs, because there are dogs serving in Vietnam with the soldiers. So tell what you do for the dogs, and they pack a box for the dogs too. So when you're thinking about donating, don't forget the dogs.
Well, yeah, the thing we forget is that the dogs, first and foremost, are there to protect the men and women who are serving in Afghanistan. They detect the IEDs, the bombs, and they also serve an even perhaps more important part of the life of those men and women who are in the platoons that have a dog handler and have a dog. They tremendously reduce the incidence of post-traumatic stress disorder. Just having that big dog there to pat on and talk to really provides some emotional. These are typically German Shepherds or Labrador Retrievers, or maybe Doberman Pinschers, but they're big dogs. They're manly dogs, if you will. And someone suggested some years ago that we might want to help these dogs by sending them a little something. So that's kind of grown, and we have a list on the website of the items that we send to the dogs, and we will send a box to the dog handler of human goodies and send the dog their own box. We had a young man some years ago who was from San Angelo who was a dog handler, and the kiddos down in Iran had adopted him and his dog, and they sent him a package and asked Will how Jazz enjoyed the goodies, and Will wrote back and said, well, Jazz really enjoyed the mint chewies that you sent, but I enjoyed them even more because I sleep with Jazz. So that really kind of set the tone, and the list that we have on the website is very specific, because these are working dogs. They're not play dogs, and their diet is restricted, and what kind of toys they can play with are specific. And we have had a former dog handler who was in Afghanistan help us put that list together. So don't just go out and buy a floaty vest for these dogs, because there's no place for them to float. Look at the kinds of toys and the kinds of treats that we can send, and if you have the name of a dog handler, send us his name, and we'll be more than happy to send him one of the human boxes and send his dog a box of goodies so that he can have some Christmas as well.
And I want to clear up something that you said last week. You were talking about send us the names of your friends and loved ones who are in Afghanistan, because it doesn't have to be somebody from West Texas. If you're from West Texas, but you know somebody in Ohio,
right?
But the main thing is for us to get the APOs, because these boxes are addressed to a specific person. They're not just sent willy-nilly over there. And I want us to talk a little bit about the Christmas cards. This was another thing that grew as this project grew over the years. And all of a sudden, the little children got involved, and sometimes people from nursing homes got involved. And this is an example of one of them. It's just a little homemade treat. It has Christmas trees and reindeer and snowmen and Christmas decorations all over the front of it, and then it says ho, ho, ho. But the handwritten part, I just loved. Roses are red, violets are blue. What would America do without you? Happy holidays to our troop. And I just thought that was, and then there's so many more. Some of them are actual cards that they've written notes in, but most of them are just handmade cards that some wrote a letter on Christmas stationery. But there's 5 cards in every box or thereabout. A letter from the Christmas for Our Troops organization that tells about the box and some of the who donated the items, and then just all kinds, just brimmed full till it can barely shut, with great things for our troops. This is a great foot powder, a Bible, and this is a hot and cold cup, and it comes full of hot chocolate mix. Just very useful things, and that's why you look at the list at each drop box or on the website, and it's very specific, the size of the Kleenex that you can send and all that. But then the other thing is these soft, small little toys that are packed inside each box that helps the servicemen form friendships and with some of the little children in Iraq. But now I want you to talk a little bit about how much does it cost to send this box? Because as heavy as that is, I could barely lift it.
It's an expensive undertaking. The postage alone runs about $14.50 per box. That's a priority mailbox specifically to the military. And so when you multiply that by 2,600 boxes, which is what we will do again this year, we're at over $36,000 in postage alone.
And boxes. But I mean, that's not counting the boxes.
Well, the items that go in the box has a value in excess of $100. There's a lot of high value in there. We decided a long time ago that we weren't going to send these men and women junk. We were going to send them things that they could use. Like a good pocket knife.
That was practical for them to use
items.
Too.
One time we sent duct tape, but that got too heavy and decided that we could put other things beside duct tape. That was kind of a manly West Texas thing to do. But the knit caps and the socks and the hand warmers and the pocket knife, the Bible, the DVDs, the medical items are all important and useful to them. And then the fun things, the little toy, the Christmas cards from kids.
Okay, this is more we've got to talk to you about, so we'll be back in just a minute and continue this conversation.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.